what is the state of the children's app in 2016?
What is the state? I think that I think it's more and more difficult to be visible, and especially for my app, because I'm a one-guy company and I do curriculum apps, not education. Because if I say only education, everybody will think that well, I don't do games, and I think it's really difficult to be visible these days, and because there is so many apps now, you know, it's really difficult. And my issue is that some of the new kids on the block, they bet everything on being featured in the App Store. And if you are not featured in the App Store, you are invisible. And that's one of the really difficult things these days. And that's the same thing on Google Play or on iOS. And so we have to find ways to be visible. It's not easy. Yeah.
I would say that the state of the companies who make apps today is that we're looking for other ways to make money. Whether it's, if we had original IP, look at licensing, if it's doing actual toys or connected toys or anything outside the App Store, or looking at other models like subscription models to bring in a recurring revenue and trying to maintain the company. Because if you're a one-man shop, you can try to keep your costs low and you can survive if you only have apps and they sell well. But when the company starts growing, obviously more pressure, more costs, even if you try to run it as lean as possible. And so to be sure to stay alive, you need to find ways to get the revenue in and to be sure what's coming along. Because as Pierre says, we still rely a lot on featuring, and that's not a good way of sustaining a business.
Completely agree. But trying to add something else to that, I think that these are the big things. But if you try to think about two other things, one, I sort of posing a question of whether there's a slight app fatigue. It could be indicative. The second one, which just ties into the other thing, is and myself being a good example of it, is just consolidation. I think that's what I said on this panel last year. I was in negotiations last year, so, so I knew that was a safe bet, and now I'm here. So that's been a relatively safe bet as well. I think it's completely inevitable, and it's not necessarily going to be a good thing. That's it.
I agree with everything they said. I think the idea of framing it in terms of app fatigue is really, that's sort of where my point is, that apps are everywhere. You know, there's an app for that. And they become so commonplace that it's hard, there's no interest in them anymore. And so the only way to make any money on it is just to tie them to things that people are used to paying things for. So for books, toys, anything that you can do to apply your app to something else that people are used to paying money for and don't mind, then you have a better chance. And we're really in a mature market. This is the other part of it, and we've seen this. Those of us who have been in the industry for a while. I talked about this last year, where we went through the floppy disk and then CD-ROMs and then the internet, and everything has a wave. And in the beginning, anybody can make a lot of money, and in 3 or 4 years in, it becomes a mature market, and it's mostly the big companies with highly branded characters. And I want to add one other thing too, is that Barbara and I, we saw a movie the other night called Screenagers. And it's a great film about teenagers and screen time. And it's pretty fairly balanced film, but it was about screen addiction. And it was, not necessarily our target market because it was teenagers, but I think that there's going to be a backlash to screen time because we're in a new cultural phenomenon. We don't know much about it. We're still trying to get used to it, and we have kids who are just spending way too many hours, and I'm a developer, and I think they're spending too many hours in front of the screens in lieu of other things. And I think there's going to be a backlash in the discussion as we try to find those zero nodes.
Well, I also agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I could add is that our company also makes games for adults as well as for kids. And of course, we see some of the same things in the video game space. One way that people are reacting is to move to different platforms, so to be sure to have a cross-platform approach. So it's not just the mobile devices, but also Steam, for example, where people are actually a little bit more used to paying for things still. And one of the things that our company has done is, and these are not easy to work out, but we've done relationships with people like Intel and most recently for the Project Tango, where we actually are able to develop for a specific new platform and able to port products, especially products that are licensed or have a known license, which makes them valuable, and then able to port those products to brand new platforms in search of new customers. So we should also keep in mind that there are new platforms like AR and VR. And of course you have a gold rush for that too, right? There are tons of developers working on that, but at least it's not millions, it's more like hundreds, of apps. And so that's another thing to keep in mind, cross-platform.
I would also agree with everything everybody said. I think the market is just maturing. I think that's just what it is. I heard recently that just searches for kids' apps is declining. So it may have peaked in like 2012 or something like that. I think there's kind of an excitement gap maybe as well. In 2010, the iPad came out, everybody was excited about it. It lasted for a couple of years. People were just excited to download an app and install it and then tap it and then it comes up. I mean, just having apps was exciting, and now it's just an everyday thing. It's more of a commodity or something like that. I think I would second what Bjorn said. I think the overall sales are down. In the last couple of years, I've switched to, or not switched, but I've expanded to other platforms like Android, and release new apps just to keep the same revenue going. So I mean, I can see sales going down, and I'm just fighting to keep them level. But so far so good. I've also noticed that, at least for my apps, the market has supported price increases. So for the first time, most of my apps are $1.99 or $2.99, whereas most of the time they've been 99 cents. So I guess that's good. Trying to be optimistic.
What they all said. So I'm looking at it from an ecosystem perspective, and I think I agree with what everyone said. On the play side, not necessarily seeing overall kids and family revenue share going down per se, but we're building it out. We launched the business about a year ago. Also, the way we define kids, we define family actually as things that kids enjoy, which are either created just for kids or also for kids and adults. Because it's a reality that children enjoy playing things that are what we call mixed age. So, but I think the challenge that I see is because we work with a lot of developers, and one of the most heartbreaking things is when someone calls you and is like, oh yeah, we're shutting down, and like developed a relationship over the years, and that I always feel very sad about. How do you induce people to pay? Like, what are the barriers to not paying? People pay for books, people pay for movies, people pay for toys, right? People pay for music. Why is there this mentality that, if I just did a little bit more work, I'd find something that's free, that's good enough. So people definitely have a barrier against paying, and how do you overcome that? So those are some of the things we're thinking about. What are those barriers? What can we help build that will help overcome them, so that I can't find it, or the cost of not liking it is too hard, or what have you. The other thing is also from an Android perspective, part of, we're going a lot into emerging markets and international. There's a huge footprint there, and I think 80% or something, really some new stats are of devices around the world are Android. Well, in emerging markets, what are the models that are going to get people to pay? Back to I think Bjorn and I are mentioning like getting new customers, getting new platforms. So what are some of those things, and what can we build? What are the models that are going to get people to pay there, and what do the apps need to be, because there's a lot of infrastructure challenges.
Do you guys see any of these that you'd like to talk about?
The first one.
Who is making money?
The models.
The models for making money? Does anyone want to just talk about that? Who is making money, and subscriptions, IAPs, one-time purchase, investors, grants, mergers, sell company?
I can just give you our testimony that we do premium apps, but we tried doing freemium and it's not working. So I also think it's just a different business, it's a different way of making apps, and we thought, you know, we could just dive into it and make money with these premium apps. And we're not. The conversion rate is not there. And so we're tweaking, yes.
Is it premium or premium?
So we make premium apps, but we've tried doing freemium just to see. And so the conclusion is we don't know how to make premium apps that convert. Yes.
In what ways, tell me about your freemium app, what was in it?
So it's a drawing app, and you get 8 drawings for free. And if you want to get more drawings, so if you want to save more than 8 drawings, you have to pay for the full version, which is $1.99. $1.99.
Too much.
Too much. And there's also lots of canvases, and so you only get 4 canvases in the free version, and if you want to get the whole lot of canvases, I think there's 25 or something, then you have to, it's the same price. It's only one unlock, it's not different kinds of unlocks. So it's just converting to $1.99 to get access to everything. And so in the first version, there was a garbage can. So you couldn't save more than 8, but you could bin them and do as many as you wanted, but with a maximum of 8 saved on your device. So we thought, oh no, that was crappy, let's scratch the garbage can. So we scratched it, and it's still not working.
Do people keep playing?
Yeah, we have a...
So they play long?
So we get a lot of sessions, and they're long sessions, they're about 11 minutes. Because it's also a mindfulness app. There's a lovely music
What's
that
it called?
is generated. Zen Studio.
The Zen Studio, yeah.
There's a lovely music that is generated when you swipe your finger on the canvas. And people say that it's great, and teachers use it in their classrooms, but they use the free version.
Do you know the percentage, the conversion rate? I mean,
yeah, it's something like 4%.
yeah, it's not
4%
bad.
was
4%.
conversion to...
Yeah, but I don't know exactly. Perhaps you know better the rate, or somebody know better the conversion rate usually. But for example, on Google Play, I heard about 2% is a good conversion rate on the education for family. You know, perhaps. So it's not. It's because you don't have the volume, I think. And in kids, we don't have the volume to perhaps to do this model.
So there was another. There's always other reasons for doing apps. So this one is not to make money, but to have people come into your system and go to the More Apps page and register to your newsletter, and so it's been doing other things for us. But I just wanted to say out there that we've tried making a freemium app and that we failed miserably.
I think the answers are probably all of those. To a certain degree, I think we do more than maybe people see, because most of you are in the US and most of you are either on Android or on Google. But like we're part of subscription programs in Japan. We're part of subscription programs in Brazil. That work in different ways. We're on Amazon Underground. We're on Amazon App Store. We're in a large variety of different business models. We have certain individual deals with platforms. We can have that. We can have pre-installed deals to try to get money to be on a certain, be pre-installed on a tablet, and sort of so So like the normal premium business is definitely the largest part, and that's the most visible one. But the answer sort of more granularly is much more complex than maybe it first looks, and it's becoming very obvious, taking a sort of a closer look internationally, that premium model is just never going to work in quite a lot of markets.
That was premium, you said.
Premium is just not going to work. Not to say that freemium necessarily is going to work either. It's just it's not going to work to charge. But that's also true that there may not be a business model in those markets. That's also a possibility, and that leads to your first comment is like maybe you shouldn't be making money off ads in those markets because it's just there is no point. There is no market there. That's a reality. That could be the case. You know, this again, look across all the places. It's possible that maybe it doesn't have to be, but the cost of having apps in Saudi Arabia, generally speaking, is nothing. You know, you click the box and say Saudi Arabia, yes, let's do that. Send that out. Doing a specific custom version for Saudi Arabia, that might be quite different. That could also yield a very different result. But it's also possible that there is no business model. You know, just using Saudi Arabia as an example. I think a typical market that maybe most of us have not custom built anything for, but there is actually quite a large market.
I would suggest that we all kind of subtly slip over to the Fitbit meeting. Go in the back, they probably won't even know that we're not Fitbit people, and we can make some money over in the physical fitness. Say, forget this kids stuff.
Some of the business models we don't have up there is ads. And I know that Warren, you're not necessarily a proponent of it, but just listening to what Bjorn, you were saying, if you think about the international markets, and yes, the propensity to pay is not necessarily there, but there are, we're talking about direct payment. All of these are direct payment, right? Subscriptions, IAPs, one-time purchases, premium. Well, what about indirect payment, where the user is not necessarily paying, but someone's paying to reach that user? So I would say that, ads would be a business model that would, if done right, of course, there's all the regulatory issues, but I wouldn't necessarily rule that out, especially when you think about emerging markets.
Bjorn, did any of those models work to make money? Enough money?
I mean, what's enough? Like they work. Like it's all relative. I'm speaking from a extremely privileged position, obviously. So whatever I would consider to be enough might be, others will look at that in a different manner, of course. But keeping that perspective still, it's worth it, and it's doing better than it would be with my normal business model, so to speak, in some of those markets. It's not super large, and there's nothing that we've come across so far which is incredibly encouraging. As in sort of like this is the new premium model, and this is something which is generally going to scale across markets. But yeah, like it works quite well in Brazil. Like for instance, that works quite well. That specific model works quite well in Brazil specifically, for instance. So it's something I'll take it.
Enough to break even and make money.
Yeah, well, these are all apps that we made for other platforms as well. So there's different versions.
Cost is low.
The cost of taking it. The initial cost is high, but the cost of getting it to the Brazilian subscription program once I have it is actually quite low. So from that perspective, definitely worth doing. But of course, there's an alternate cost as well. You've got to think about someone's got to take care of that relationship. Someone's got to go to Brazil now and then. There's all of these things. You can chase down these things, but if it's custom for every single market, which we're not seeing so far, but it's possible that that's the way that it could go. Quite expensive and quite time consuming just to keep those things going. So it's kind of alluring in theory, but in practice actually takes quite a lot of work.
What about copyrights, trademarks, and patents in other countries? At the Learning Company, that was just so much money that we had to pay to protect our IP in every country we went to. Or now there's blocks of countries you can pay for.
Nothing has changed.
It's still a lot of money.
Our lawyer bills are extortionate.
Right,
yeah.
That has stopped me from trying to go to other countries.
It's tricky, and then we run into troubles all the time. And we think we just won something where someone had registered our trademark in a large country many years ago. It has nothing to do with us, and we've had stores on Alibaba are selling stuff saying this is the official Chinese outpost of Tokawoka. I've never met these people in my life, no idea what's going on. They're selling our merchandise, which arguably look better than the stuff that we were making. You know, so there's weird stuff going on out there. And even if I had the trademark, that would have happened anyway. At least the trademark gives me a possibility to try to sort of make that right. But what's going on in places, well, you know, that was just one instance that I happened to find. God knows what's going on in other places.
So the answer to the previous question, who's making money, is lawyers are.
They've never had a problem with their business model.
I wanted to mention Age of Learning. Is there anyone here associated with Age of Learning? Last week they raised $120 million.
150.
Was it 150?
Yeah.
And I guess they're valued as a billion-dollar company with that last round of funding, and that is a subscription model. When I was talking to someone last week about their company, they said that I was surprised because I had read that they're raising the money to get into schools and also to expand to the 8-year-olds because they're basically preschool. And when I spoke to the person there, one of the management, he said that they were actually in 55,000 schools already. They give it away to schools for free, but now they have built up their consumer subscriptions. Is it 1 million subscribers? I believe that's what I read. And the subscription is $7.98 or something like that a month. So it's about $8 a month. So that's, they've really managed to, over the last, have they been in business for 6 years maybe? The heavy duty marketing, I don't know if you've ever seen the infomercials, so you go into a movie theater, they market. So they've really pushed the marketing, pushed the brand, used schools like the old Scholastic model to get into the home, and they've built a very successful business. So just related to
I would just point
money.
out, it's unclear what their profitability is. There is revenue, it's unclear about profitability. That's all.
Although they raised a lot of money at a
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean...
So.
They've
projections.
Yeah.
What does that mean they raised a lot of money? Did they raise money as in capital funding from investors or?
Yes, do you remember, is it Iconic, the investment banking group that invested money? They're associated with Zuckerberg at Facebook and a bunch of Silicon Valley bigwigs who have, so they got their money from an investment banking firm.
When I saw that it had acquired, I went and looked at the review that we did quite a long time ago, and I said, I think I remember this, is it any good? And it is good. And I think one thing to remember is that if you don't have a really engaging product that kids want to use, that is based on solid curriculum and the teachers can see the validity, like, you know, Starfall, none of this will make sense. You can't build on a foundation that isn't well done. And so it is a good product. And those guys did come to, I think, the first Highlights Duster Magic. I don't know if anyone remembers the Age of Learning guys. ABC Mouse. Yeah, it was ABC Mouse. Yeah, and I sent her an email to try to get her to come, and she was this close. But she was busy waxing her yacht, so she couldn't quite make it. But yeah, good folks. I mean, I hope that it works out. I've seen a lot of people I know who've gotten a big hit of money, and it kind of ruins the company, or it ruins the product. It kind of like everything dissolves. The quality, the incentive, kind of goes away. So it'd be interesting.
One of the things I understand that BBC Mouse does is they say that it's $7.95 a month. If you want to try it out, you can get at least 3 profiles, so for 3 different children for that subscription amount. But after you use it for a couple months, like 3 or 4 months, then they'll come back to you and say, hey, you can buy an annual subscription, and then it's only $4.99 a month, and you can still use everything the same. Then people sign up for the annual model and forget to not, cancel, and then they pay for the next one, and then it's already paid. So in that sense, they're kind of getting recycled, money, because in the sense they're going to people who already like the product and saying, hey, you can get it for cheaper. They're like, well, why not? Our kids are already using it. So it's kind of an interesting kind of subscription model play after people are already using your subscription model. I thought that was an interesting point.
Very.
It's a good question. Anybody on the panel have any thoughts about subscription? Anybody doing it?
We will be.
Yeah.
With a video product that we're launching this year. So that's going to be subscription. I think if there was better support from the platforms, wink wink, then we would easily have had a subscription offering as well for our regular apps. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a sort of a classic mechanic that's worked for children's products for a long time, and is sort of very low effort required to sort of to continuously get good stuff, and puts pressure on you as a developer to keep making good stuff, and if you don't make good stuff, you don't earn it, you're going to lose it, which is a good pressure to have. And it addresses a lot of the discoverability that everyone's having. So from that sense, it makes a lot of sense, and there's going to be an absolute onslaught of subscriptions. Without any shadow of a doubt in the apps of very, very, very soon. So the big question is, how many subscriptions are consumers going to have running? Which is the same question video, sort of the VOD people are asking about Netflix, like how many people are going to have Comcast and HBO and Netflix and Hulu and all of these others. Jury's still out on that one, but that's the same question that people are asking there, is like, how many kids subscriptions are you going to have, or is that going to have to mass consolidate as well? And we're all going to have to join forces and offer one Dust Magic subscription, and that's the only one that you need. It's not an unlikely scenario. Like it's technically impossible currently, unfortunately, but in theory that wouldn't be the worst idea, because it addresses some of those things. And I can't really see any other way than it going there, because of the challenges in the other businesses. Like you say, like in-app purchase requires an in-app purchase product, which a lot of us don't have, and it's very difficult to make, even if you could. Premium has very, very big macro difficulties. Subscription is not easy by any sense, but at least it sort of makes sense in theory. But yeah, how is it on an individual level? Is it on a sort of a group level or anything like that? That's very hard to tell.
One thing I think it's important to remember is that we've only been in this game for 6 years, and in terms of the length of time that the app stores have been working, and they're changing. They're trying to figure out different search mechanisms, and discovery is a big deal, and so it's a really, this is a very immature space, and also the installed base is increasing. Another big variable is that some of you are marketing to schools and libraries, and some of you are marketing to parents, and schools and libraries have budgets. They spend money on products, and they don't even think about spending $5 or $6 a month because they have that funding. It's built in. Whereas getting that kind of money out of a home is a completely different thing. So I think there's room right now for innovation. And when I look at some of the real early companies like MEC, they did this thing where you could always get free backup copies. Right? And every school thought that was the best deal because you could just get unlimited floppy disks and then copy them yourself. Well, I think there's room for that kind of thinking. If you can somehow say, if you buy a legitimate version, you can get, you can give copies to people that you love. And again, if it's a solid product, then it can go places. But I think there's space for innovation in thinking about how to reach these markets.
I think going back to Dan's app fatigue, what we're noticing as well is because the iPad was brand new in 2010 and people were discovering apps for the following 2 years, what we're seeing now is that the average age of our client has gone down. Like children who are 8 now don't use apps anymore, they just use YouTube.
Yeah.
That's what they use the device for. So if you're developing for younger children, it's a better market, it's a safer market today than if you were developing for like 8 to 10 years old, because they're doing different things on the devices. And another thing is, from a teacher's perspective, I think that as teachers are getting more comfortable with the device, they're not looking for curriculum-based apps so much because they now look for other types of apps that will enable them to teach something, but not, so they won't look for a specific ABC app, for instance, or let's use science maybe as an example. They won't look for a science app, but they'll use a National Geographic app or something else as a tool to teach their lesson. So from our perspective, we're doing very curriculum-based apps for children from 6 to 10. The market is changing a lot.
So who's making one?
When I saw YouTube Kids, I honestly thought, oh no, because it's basically turning the device into a gazillion channel video. And what kid isn't going to want to watch their favorite TV show forever? And that's going to take away the minutes from Tokaboka or Quality Interactive. And I honestly don't know, that kind of spooked me because it was so darn good. I mean, if you haven't used YouTube Kids and the voice search feature, it's great. I mean, you can say anything and it comes up with just it's incredible how accurate that is.
Say that again?
YouTube Kids, the app that's, it's really cool.
It's so anti-iPad to me because what I love about the iPad is that it's an interactive device. If you turn it into a TV screen, then it's
retinal
just
display with great sound, and the iPad Pro has 4 speakers.
You can take it anywhere.
In the car, yeah.
The batteries last all day. So it's my mother's nightmare because my mother didn't want us to watch TV, and for a parent today to hand them an unlimited supply of linear video, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, baby elephants are really cute.
Yeah. You want to watch them tonight?
Yeah.
Baby elephants, Anne's room. Is there anything that's exciting you guys? Yeah, Mark?
Barbara and I were talking about, it seems like there's this disconnect in families these days where everybody has their own device. Mm-hmm. And you'll see everybody on a separate device, even in the same room sometimes. Yeah. And it seems to me and Barbara that there's a place for family games again. I mean, when you're sitting in the restaurant with your kids, what game can you play? Can you put your things together and make a game from 4 of them? What can we do? And it seems like there's an opportunity for that that's about connecting with your kids over the device rather than having a separate world.
Fight fire with fire.
Yeah, so that's what we've been thinking about, is what kind of opportunities are there for that, because we were sitting in the restaurant, we were playing the one where
Heads Up.
Heads Up, yeah, that's right, where you put it up and then everybody has to guess, you have to figure out what it is. And that was fine, but I would just as soon play something on the table. So I think there's an opportunity there.
Anyone else?
There's certainly a resurgence of board games, physical board games that's been going on, and we're working on a digital version of a board game called Android Netrunner. So it's not for kids, but it's the board game publishers, like we're working with Asmodee and Fantasy Flight. They are really putting a lot of effort into this, of how to digitize the board game experience. And it's all multiplayer. It's either asynchronous multiplayer or synchronous multiplayer. But it all involves people either, some of them are you're in the same room together playing, but you're using your digital devices in a unique way, and some of them obviously are remote. And it's kind of cool for a board game because if you need 4 players and you can't always get 4 players for your, around the table for your favorite board game. So the remote capability is great because that means you can still play. So yeah, I think multiplayer, absolutely all of the adult games are going in that direction. There's no question about that. So why not bring it into this space more?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fun to play with everybody here.
Yeah, just to mention about multiplayer, about my kids. Yeah, it's just an example, but I saw my kids were really excited by multiplayer games. Really exciting. Feeling that they are playing with other people, even if it is online, it's something magical. Okay. So yeah, perhaps it's something that we have to think about, even for younger people, younger kids.
When I was in Denmark recently, I was with a bunch of my extended relatives who didn't speak English, and there were some kids, and so I had my iPads with me, and I started Toka Hair Salon, the international builder of relationships. And I have wacky pictures of every one of my relatives now, and you know, and that dynamic was amazing. And I actually have some pictures of the whole family around with big, huge grins on their face. You know, and there's really very few other kinds of activities that could have done that. So I think that using the camera, that was pretty. So thank you for making that app. Also, you just did a dancing one, and I've seen kids who like the music in that so much they actually put it on the big screen and they dance, and it's a kind of a party kind of app. So, you know, I think that we underestimate how flexibly these things can be used.
I think maybe as a point of more something else more in sort of happy news is, like, I think the prognosis is there's going to be 1 billion more smartphones the coming 4 years. Just your point of it being very early and very young, and a lot of things are very underdeveloped, so it's easy to look at something now and say, you know, these mechanisms are broken, or this business model is broken, and so on and so forth. And that's true. But on the other hand, like, compared to many other companies, we're on an incredible macro trend. Like, the macro trend, there is nothing anywhere to imply that that smartphone growth is declining anywhere, or that smartphone usage is declining anywhere. And then, of course, what are they doing with it? Are they paying any money for the things, and so on and so forth? There's a lot of questions to go on it, but the potential for these kind of things, and sort of the people and the kids that you can reach in parts of the world that you just have been completely inaccessible prior to now, is something to be very, and it is an encouraging and interesting challenge to take on. And it won't work in the same way as it has up until now. That's still something very interesting, and something which, you know, is an opportunity if that's the way you want to look at it.
If you guys were to compare our industry to different industries, is there another industry that you think is closest to this children apps industry? Could be nothing. I'm just wondering what. Is there any? I mean, is it like children's television? Is it?
I think it's children's toys. Because things are hot and then they're dead, and then they're hot and they're dead. And how do you? There's a great book about how to create Evercool by Dan Harcraft. Dan, I can't remember, and he's just talking about, you know, he talks about the patterns that we talk about here a lot about who kids are, and then how do you keep something fresh so that it goes on to, you know, one group of kids are using it, and then the little kids start using it, and then it's dead. And then how do you refresh it? And then toys come and go, and they go up and down, and they disappear for a while, and then they come back again. And there's some stuff that's ever cool to kids, and I think that's as part of my talk tomorrow is that play patterns are universal. They're device independent. So if you tap into a good play pattern like haircutting, then you can use it years later. It'll still be a good play pattern, or operation, or any of those kind of things.
From a purely curriculum point of view, I can say the same from learning to count and learning letters. Numberland was released back in 2010, and we still make a good chunk of our revenue from it, because it's just a topic that parents look for, learning to count. If you go into more, into less priority learning, then I think you lose out in the long run. But with the very, very basic subjects, you can, as long as you maintain the app and you update it, you can be sure that parents are going to be looking for learning to read and learning to count and learning colors, for instance.
I would say that also, you know, the first apps we made in 2010, 2011 are really visible. So I don't know if you would release a number down today, it would be so much successful, you know. Even for my apps, that's the same. And I just want to come back about ads because I was thinking just for emerging market, is it better that kids don't play to our apps, or it is better that they play with our apps for free but with ads? It's a good question, I think, because these kids, they will never pay for apps. I mean, their parents will never pay for apps. So perhaps it's better to put ads and they can learn to write, to read, to play, to everything with ads. Because we are all against ads, but in the end, it is perhaps better that kids play with ads. No, it's a question. I don't know if...
Pierre, you mentioned yesterday at AppFest about whether you keep with the apps that you have and you have a 5-star rating, or whether you update it. Do you want to share that information that you talked about yesterday?
Yeah, that's another subject, and I think it comes back to because I've got apps that I've done in the first years of the App Store, so we are pretty successful and pretty known, and so that's why it's working. And so. So now, my view is that it is very difficult to launch a new app, especially now because educational apps are not put in front of the App Store because of the kids categories that put essentially games in front of parents. And so I prefer to update my apps, actually. I prefer to have better and better apps for and that's why I'm doing a lot of updates to my apps, and I don't have time to create new apps actually now. But perhaps I should do like as Dan has done and create number 2 of some of my apps, like Static writing with app 2.
You should use that as stage 3.
Directly.
I have a question, or a comment about advertising. I think it's really sad that our wealthy country sells sugar cereal and Coke and things to obese children. And it's like, if we bring in ads, what are we going to advertise? Not something we're just going to buy naturally. And that's so sad what we push on kids through commercial TV. And why wouldn't it be the same pattern? Selling horrible things that are really bad for them. So, I just want that to be.
I don't think people in the back there.
You mean about ads?
Well, the question with advertising is that if you let ads in, or you put a space for a banner ad, that there could be junk food ads
It was an open question. It's just to know that if kids in emerging market, you know, if you've got really great apps to learn to read or count, and kids cannot access to it, is it better that they can access to it with ads, even bad ads, or they don't access to it at all? It's just an open question that was on my mind.
It's interesting. It's interesting because just recently there was a lot of noise on Product Hunt, where there's a new ad network called Kiddos, which is directed at kids apps. So it's they're really trying to create safe ads for kids and partner with kids app developers to get a market for their ads. But it's interesting that like Kiddos is emerging today, precisely when a lot of these app developers are struggling.
Languishing.
Well, you could argue Super Awesome as well. They're trying to do a similar ad thing too, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Super Awesome, but Kiddos just came on my radar. But
I want to go back to the update app or create a new one. As a publisher that's been around, since 1978, we have product in the classroom that teachers have loved and order. We have this one, Cross-Legged Critters, our daily app, our daily series that we're constantly updating and is always there. It's a tool that the teachers use. And I think one of the problems with technology is, and being able to take hold in the classroom is that it's not there for very long. They can't depend on it. So when you talk about, okay, do we update or do we create a new? And the way you get your reviews and you get your, you maintain your reviews and you make more money is to create new instead of update. We're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot because there's no dependability. You know what I mean? It's like if we're going to make a difference, we have to continually improve what we've already put out. Because that's what's important to a teacher.
Yeah.
It's got to be there when she needs it. When she finds something that she loves and it's gone.
That's my.
So what's the business model for that? How do you sell that?
Well, that's the question. That's the big question. That's the mystery.
But for the one that you're referencing, that is daily, because it's very difficult to talk about this without doing the both.
In the question, when a teacher, so you're in the front line, you're teaching every day, and you find something you love that absolutely works, and you come back, and a year later it's gone, or it's full of bugs, or it's not supported anymore. It's like, how can you buy in and invest in something in a platform that doesn't exist, that doesn't have what you love and is there? How do we make technology as what we're trying to do as dependable as what paper is? Because otherwise it's never going to catch on.
So do the teachers pay for the updates? How do you make money as the publisher?
No, I'm not saying that we're doing, I'm not saying that. I'm asking the question, update app or create a new. And it seems like there's this, we were talking about it yesterday at AppFest.
It's kind of a segue to the end stuff.
Yeah.
Shazi, did you have a comment?
Well, I was going to say, so in the enterprise software world, right, the way people paid for updates was because they paid maintenance license and what happened after they got they paid an ongoing fee, and that enabled the developer then to keep updating the content so it was fresh, it didn't have bugs, everything you were saying. Do you think that could work, i.e. a subscription type model could work in schools? And if it does, maybe that's the answer to this. Update
I think it's
with subscriptions.
Why tech has not caught on in the classroom, continually supporting what we've already put out. The teachers love. It's always there. She can go back to it. She can pick it up. It's there. And I don't know the answer to that question, but it is one that I'm like, why aren't we continually doing that?
Comment from Tamara.
So I'm wondering, actually, it's not faulty and I'm thinking the same thing. So I wanted to ask this to go along with the question because I don't think it's actually just about apps disappearing. Professional development for teachers is missing our cross-technology integration altogether. We see it with Prometheum and smartboards. They use them as YouTube playlists, right? That's what the teachers go to. They're looking for a YouTube video that's like a read aloud, so they're not reading aloud to kids at circle time. But if you look at programs like Edmodo and other groups that come in, and are giving a tremendous amount. I mean, Google, right, shows up and they have like Google Palooza in certain cities, or they'll partner with a district. Teachers are buying in because you have to remember, nobody is giving them professional development. No one's paying for them to get professional development, especially if you follow this early childhood piece around apps, right? So that the 8 to 10-year-olds aren't on the apps. But nobody's investing in professional development. If you look at some of the larger kind of giants in the ed tech sphere, right, that are building around, like you said, Edmodo and some of those other groups, they do it. And it has to go, I think, beyond just, everyone loves to say to them, oh, we have a curriculum on our website. But teachers are like, well, that's fine, but I still don't know how to integrate it. I don't know how to use this. And certainly when we go now from the tech center, when we go in to do professional development with teachers, they're wondering, are we just going to show them how to use a bunch of apps? But we're not, because what we're really focusing on is helping them to get kids to move around and explore and use your apps in very meaningful ways in their play or in, again, in making and doing, but less app, like, oh yes, you're just going to open this app and set up a center and the kids are going to do this. And I think, you know, how do you figure out perhaps how to use YouTube as your professional development channel?
Yeah.
Right? Thinking about, like, will it turn around to more revenue because you're giving teachers what their districts and won't give them, and actually doesn't know how to do and doesn't have many qualified people out to do. If you start looking, like, especially for, I will tell you, because we just had to search for it for a conference presentation, we were looking for tech integration early childhood videos. Like, there might be 10 that are high quality, showing what does this app look like, or what does technology look like in that classroom. So I'm starting to wonder too, if you up that professional development, I'm not on the revenue side, but certainly principals are looking for those types of relationships. Like, I used to work for Common Sense, right? Common Sense has an education team funded through grants, of course, big grants, as we all know, going in and doing tons of free professional development, right? And it takes this huge onus off of principals, and they go, yes, please, every time. I don't know what Starfall's experience has been in some of that area.
Well, if I may, it's, we've been around for a long time, and a lot of our content has been exactly the same. Exactly the same. For a very long time, and I think it's exactly what you're touching on. The teachers know it works. They use it because it's there and it works. And every year another group of 5-year-olds come in. Every year another group of 5-year-olds come in. So long as people keep having children, another group of 5-year-olds keep coming in. And that's not to be cynical. It's just that the teachers need the stability, and the children are always getting something new. So what we look for in our feedback from our customers who use our site is we're looking for teachers who say, hey, I've been using this, and here's how I use it. And then we take those teachers and we develop a relationship with those teachers, and then we've developed curriculum around that. And what is our curriculum for? It's, hey, we have this tool, here's how to get the most out of it. And so we're actually really looking towards continuing to develop our professional development side, because we're really concerned about the notion that technology is to replace a teacher. Because technology, yes, children are super clever and they can whiz around on these things, but they're children. They're not that smart. They're still children, and they need context, and they need meaning, and they need so much more to get the most out of this experience. And we're really worried about that. We don't like this idea of just give them an app and they're going to be all right.
Here, here.
Yeah. So the professional development side is we want to have a relationship. Yeah, it's not cheap, but you know, we're not in a hurry.
And getting back to those 3 years, when we had teachers and librarians with app developers in the same space, a lot of things started to click. And I think one of the things we'd agree upon is that there's a lot of confusion on the production side. I'm seeing it in some of your faces, and somewhat dismay or despair, and also on the consumer side, the people who want this stuff because they are looking. And it was so incredible when one of the teachers realized that Kate Wilson actually made the Nosy Crow, and she was sitting right there. It was like, I love that app. That's such a good app. I didn't know that was you. You're a real person. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm buying that. How much is it? $4.99. Doesn't matter. I bought it. You know, it's like when that match comes together. So I think what needs to help make the gears go around is good information, and that means clear labels that people can trust. You know what something means when it has advertising or when it has in-app sales or whatever. you can see as a consumer exactly what it is, so you know what you're getting. And I think the brands that are trusted, like Tokaboka or like Starfall, people don't have a problem subscribing, or ABC Mouse, because they know they're going to get a quality product and they trust it. So trust, I think, has never been more valued. But that's my kind of way of wrapping this up, because I think it's been a lot of ideas and some disequilibration, I would suspect. And it's good that Dan's going to provide all the answers. Do it. He's going to do that right now. But my question is it cold in here? All right, so why don't we adjust the room? But let's thank the panel. You guys are great.